It's ridiculous. And I don't understand why anyone is not laughing her off the planet.
So thank you so much for joining me, Stephen. And I just kind of want to set the record straight because of so many comments that we get on our YouTube channel and on Instagram about being able to build muscle without carbohydrates. Many people say that that's impossible. What do you think as a personal trainer?
Well, you have to rephrase that question without dietary carbohydrates, because we make carbohydrates in our body and you do not need to eat carbohydrates. That's the thing. Your body stores glycogen and you use that when you're exercising. Obviously, it stores it in the muscle and it stores it in the liver, but you've got stores on you. So the average lean athlete, I don't really like using the word calories because different macronutrients deliver different levels of energy. For instance, fat is packed full of energy and protein tends to be used for structure. But as everyone understands calories, an average lean athlete has 2,000 calories on them straight away, readily available. That's what it's there for. That's what glycogen stores are for. They are stores to be used for energy. So you don't need to be eating carbohydrates at all. Your liver will make sure that you have enough carbohydrates. And when you're not using dietary carbohydrates, or when your body is not oxidizing carbohydrates for energy, it will use fat. So there's plenty of people growing muscle without any additional dietary carbohydrates going in. So I think they actually prove the concept anyway.
Because you're a phlebotomist, I thought this might be another good question for you. When you go to donate blood afterwards, they always want to give you a cookie. They always want to push those things on you afterwards. Everybody thinks you need that. I know people who eat cookies before they exercise. And so I just want to talk about that. After you give blood, they try to give you sweets. Can you explain that and explain what we can do differently and what you've seen?
I've taken lots of blood and I've never done that except for 3 times. And they were all vegans, actually, and they all fainted. So you have this readily available fast-acting carbohydrate ready for people that can't actually give you the blood that you need because they will then feel so depleted of energy and fatigued. It is not a great practice, but I understand why they do it. They don't want people to faint. But if you've got an overplus of energy, basically, if you're overweight, the chances that you will need a cookie is pretty limited. But when you donate, a fair amount of blood, some people will feel a bit woozy, and it's just the easiest way to give you some sort of energy, but it's not optimal. And to be honest, I would say I've never done that. So like I say, I've only ever done that with people that have shown signs they're just about to faint because they just haven't got the right nutrients in their body readily available. That's a thing that they do in the mainstream where they have a cup of tea and a biscuit for you, but I don't think they really need to do that unless they have a particularly unfit person.
Have you heard about the new person that they recently appointed this week to the U.S. Dietary Guidelines Committee? Have you heard about this?
Yes.
Have you seen it on social media?
I have seen it on social media.
What do you think about Fatima Stanford and her quote from 60 Minutes? So for those of you that don't know, she is an obesity specialist, specializes in, I don't even know that you could say helping people not be obese, because I'm not sure that's what she does. It seems like she helps people stay that way, in my opinion. Her clip from 60 Minutes, and when I first heard about it, I thought, surely that's not what she said. And I went hunting for it because I thought maybe they had paraphrased, but her exact thing, what she was saying was that she calls obesity a disease, says people have obesity, not they are obese. They have obesity, and that it's genetic. And that if your parents are obese, you have a 50 to 85% chance of being obese, regardless of diet, exercise, sleep, and stress management. And it's one of the most ridiculous things I've ever heard. What is your reaction to that?
Yes, it is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard, because firstly, you prove it with common sense, because people that are obese that come to me, I'm a specialist practitioner in the UK in obesity and diabetes. When you change their diet, they lose weight. Simple as that. I'm not changing their DNA. That's not happening. And it's very short-sighted. Now, people talk about genetics a bit too much. Genetics are being used there. What actually happens is you're very likely as a child to eat what your parents eat, or whoever is your guardian or bringing you up, you will eat what they eat. So if they've got bad habits, you will have bad habits. And that is something that actually happened to me. Strangely enough, the bad habits of both my parents, who died very young, was they avoided fat and they had a lot of grains and cereals. Sadly, my mother was eating bran flakes and skim milk and yogurt that had no fat in it. And she died of colon cancer at 53. And I was eating the same diet. I was eating the same diet and absolutely believed everything, that I should be trimming fat off things, avoiding meat. So it's not genetics. And like I say, I'm just going to go back to the basics. I could definitely put on a ton of weight by eating lots of refined carbohydrates, drinking lots of sodas, and then I could lose all that weight. And I have done this experiment actually recently for the Steak and Butter Gang, where I deliberately put on 24 pounds and then I deliberately lost 27 of it. So nothing to do with genetics, everything to do with diet. And I think it's a sad state of affairs when somebody can actually get some traction and media attention and be given a post in helping the guidelines when they have absolutely zero idea about what they're talking about, because it's ridiculous. It's ludicrous. It's actually funny how bad it is. Terrible advice, and it's completely wrong. And it's proven time and time again by people in this community, in the keto community, anyone turning their back on standard American diet and they've lost weight, that is because they've changed the way they eat. It's really, really simple.
Yeah, the idea that we could lump obesity in with things like cancer that people can't do anything about is just absurd to me. And then to say it's genetic, like hair and eye color, that makes no sense at all. It's literally one of the stupidest things I've ever heard.
Yeah. And you can't change hair and eye color, can you? By eating differently, but you can change obesity by eating differently. So it's just ludicrous. It doesn't stand up at all. There is no legs to what she's saying at all.
Yeah. And if you're overweight and you're happy with yourself and you're not sick from it, then fine. If you want to stay that way and you're not having any serious problems from it, or if you are having serious problems and you just don't care. But if you feel like you want to do something about it, don't let what anybody says, especially somebody who says something like that, don't let that stop you and shrug your shoulders and say, well, my mom and dad were overweight, so I'm going to be overweight too. That's just how it is, because it is not genetic and you can absolutely change it.